So to say that the Trump administration is just swooping up, people off the street for no apparent reason and send them to El Salvador, that's just simply not what's happening. So I
Well,
have to push
they have
back
owned
there.
up to certain like miscalculations. And also, I have a hard time understanding what is and is not gang affiliated because they've come out and been like, "Ooh, we saw this tattoo, so they were gang affiliated." I think that was about the barber that they threw out. But at the end of the day, gang affiliated or not, there's due process.
In today's video, Cameron Kasky absolutely destroys Tomi Lahren in a heated debate on immigration and tariffs. Tomi Lahren doing what she always does, going full MAGA mode trying to defend Trump's extreme immigration policies and his plans for mass deportation. She spins the usual law and order narrative and insists that the deportation machine is somehow compassionate and necessary. But then Cameron Kasky jumps in, and honestly, he just buries her. He pushes back with brutal clarity. He brings up how real people, families, veterans, legal residents are being swept up in this chaos, and how Trump's policies rely more on fear and scapegoating than actual solutions. So let's dive in and watch how Cameron Kasky shuts down Tomi Lahren in this heated debate.
You put these people in front of courts and you give them
But these people have been in front of courts. And in the case of the Maryland father, he's already been in front of a court. He's been here since 2011. He was supposed to be out of here already. He is ripe for deportation. The whole issue with him was an administrative error of which flight, what time. That was the whole thing with him. And the Supreme Court has now ruled President Trump does have the authority. And we're talking about due process. Illegal aliens don't get the same due process that you and I get. No, we're not going to swoop people up and just say, you're going to El Salvador. But the due process is a little different. And if the police department says you're gang affiliated, and an immigration judge says you're gang affiliated, and also you're an illegal alien and you broke the law to get into this country, I'm sorry, I'm not sure it's even the best messaging for the Democrat left to take that you want those people to stay here on our dime in our communities. I mean, I think that's a hard sell. And I think that you mentioned the messaging on that, I think that's really hard for most Americans to chew on.
I don't really know what the right's messaging is other than we're just going to get rid of the people and anyone who we say is gang affiliated is gang affiliated. But I think it speaks to just a larger situation with the legal system right now, where we're seeing how weak the legal system in this country is. Because it turns out, when we have a president who's going after these law firms, when we have judges who are getting, when we're spending millions and millions of dollars against these quote unquote activist judges, how much can our legal system do to protect just human rights in general when it's something that can kind of be bought, paid for, and, kind of MAGA bullied out of efficacy. So that's of concern to me. I mean, you see like MAGA's even turning on Amy Coney Barrett, who is an extremely conservative judge, handpicked by Donald Trump. They're going after a judge that was picked by George Bush. And it's like these people are very conservative. They voted against Roe. They are conservative across the board. And when they don't vote the way these people want them to, suddenly they're a traitor to this country.
Tomi tries to spin this story about gang affiliation like it's an open and shut case. Oh, he had a tattoo. Must be MS-13. Really? That's the standard now? People have been deported over tattoos, hearsay, or simply being in the wrong place at the wrong time, even when they've lived in the US for years and built lives and families. That Maryland barber? Yeah, he was sent back due to a clerical error, not because he was dangerous. The Trump administration even admitted that. Cameron's bigger point though, and this is key, is about how fragile the legal system has become under MAGA pressure. He calls out the bullying of judges, the defunding of public defenders, and the scapegoating of anyone who tries to stand up for due process. Even conservative justices aren't safe if they make a single ruling MAGA doesn't like. That's not justice, that's authoritarianism. The truth is, immigration enforcement is broken, and Trump's policies aren't fixing anything. They're actually making things worse by trampling over basic human rights in the name of security. If we're really serious about safety and justice, we have to do better than treating every immigrant like a criminal and throwing due process out of the window. Cameron gets it, and Tomi just doesn't.
And I'm
Well,
like, oh my
I
God.
don't say that. I mean, listen, I'm personally, I've never been a fan of Amy Coney Barrett. I just haven't. I've never really liked her, but her decision is her decision. I respect the Supreme Court and I respect the decision that was ultimately made in favor of the Trump administration. So I don't put myself in that bucket. I've criticized MAGA. I've criticized President Trump when I felt it was necessary on many occasions, and I've been ripped up and down for it, by the way. So I'm not existing in that world. And I do believe in the co-equal branches of government. I do, however, look at activist judges, and I will call them activist judges, because when you have a judge that's sitting in D.C. that's making sweeping orders that hand ties the president of the United States from deportations and handling matters of national security, I think that's going too far. And I think there's been a lot of discussion. And you know what? It happened, and Democrats didn't like it when judges hamstrung the Biden administration over things like student loans. So I think it goes both ways there. But I don't think that one judge sitting in one district should be able to make sweeping orders that impact the chief executive of this country and his ability to carry out his tasks. I think it should be limited to the jurisdiction that you're in and the parties that are in front of you. It's kind of wild that somebody that could be, in one jurisdiction could say, I'm making a rule for the entire country and hamstringing the president. That's where my issue is. But I do want to move on. Oh, go ahead. I want to give you the last word on this, but I have so much to go over, so I do want to move on after that.
Got it. Totally. Just real quick. Yeah, it just brings to mind sort of what are our lines of defenses in terms of checks and balances, because yes, we have this bicameral legislature, but you see, Republicans who are popular in their home states are voting very often not in line with the policies that they run on and not in line with the values that they use to build their public presence. They're just voting alongside Trump because the second you stand against his specific agenda in the Republican Party, you're kind of toast. So I don't mind an activist judge if they are going to stand up to administration that normally doesn't have to face accountability at all. I saw that you were talking about the group chat and you said they effed up, they need to admit it and move on. And I'm like, when is there going to be some sort of accountability? Like, getting MSNBC to report on something is not accountability. Like, punishing people for doing the wrong thing is accountability. So when judges and courts get in the way of the administration's agenda, I say, okay, at least somebody's doing it.
Now, Tomi says one judge shouldn't be able to hamstring the president. Okay, but what if the president is violating people's rights? We've seen time and again that Trump's immigration policies resulted in due process violations, wrongful deportations, and sweeping executive orders that were either rushed or unconstitutional. Judges stepping in isn't activism, it's checks and balances. That's what separates a democracy from an authoritarian power grab, and Cameron's broader point is crucial. Republicans in Congress aren't acting as a check on Trump. They're falling in line out of fear of MAGA backlash. So when the other branches of government refuse to do their job, courts have to. That's how our system was built. Also, let's not forget, Trump appointed judges struck down parts of Biden's student debt relief. So this isn't a left versus right issue. Courts sometimes rule in ways that frustrate either party. And that's how you know they're doing their job. It's called judicial independence. But enough of immigration, let's now watch their debate on tariffs. Should be an interesting one.
And it's all fun and games when you're Elon Musk dismantling the regulatory systems that prevent you from making as much money as you want and, giving government contracts to yourself and cutting them for everybody else. But suddenly, once Tesla gets affected, this Trump guy who I've been
Tesla has been
with.
getting affected because of his work at Doge. So I don't know if you can fully say that, but I do want to ask you, are you then impressed then that because, the left has been saying that President Trump listens to Elon and that Elon is the real president, but President Trump is not backing off the tariffs, even though Elon hates the tariffs. So do you think that shows that President Trump is in fact in charge of his own policy making and that Elon doesn't actually in fact have that much power over him?
I'll do you one better. I kind of never thought Elon was really the puppeteer. I saw Elon going in and dismantling government jobs, regulatory systems, things like that. Getting a lot of people who voted for Trump fired who didn't know that they were voting for losing their job. But I've always said it's been Peter Thiel. It's been Peter Thiel. Peter Thiel he installed his vice president, J.D. Vance, and he's the one calling the shots here because the billionaire elites that Trump originally was able to cultivate such energy standing up against, they are the ones who benefit from an economic crash, because while the average American and the average, person who participates in our economy loses buying and saving power, the billionaires are able to seize more power over us than they ever have before. So what people were saying about Elon, look, I don't like Elon. I think Elon should quit everything he's doing, stop doing ketamine, and spend some time with his children, whether if they'll even see him. But I think all eyes should be on Peter Thiel. I think all eyes should be on Peter Thiel, who is this century's Roy Cohn. And to know what that means is to probably understand that's not a very good thing, although Jeremy Strong might play him in a turn that deserved an Oscar.
I will say two things on that, and then I'm going to let you go just for time reasons only. I will say to the tariff thing that it's Peter Thiel organizing this. Donald Trump's been talking about tariffs since before I was born. So, and well before you were born. So this is not like a new idea that Peter Thiel was like tariffs. It's like, this has been a Trump thing for a very long time, campaigned on it.
Wait, so then why didn't it happen in 2016?
Well, listen, he did put tariffs on China that actually President Biden had to keep, but he wanted to do it then.
Well, right now they're at 104%.
Well, what I'm saying is, let's let this play out. I'm going to bring you back. I happen to put my trust in President Trump when it comes to tariffs, and I put my trust in the American worker. And when you're talking about the billionaires benefiting, I think it's actually going to be, Main Street America and steel workers and ranchers and those folks who want their factories to come back and they want gainful employment and a living wage and working in these factory jobs. The left used to love the working class. I think that's what's going to happen. I also think we're going to end up with freer trade globally because I think President Trump is a great negotiator. But listen, we don't know, and we're going to wait and see.
Cameron Kasky really hit the nail on the head in this debate with Tomi Lahren. While Tomi sticks to the typical trust Trump, trust the process MAGA line, Cameron cuts through the noise and calls out what's really going on. This isn't about helping the American workers. It's about helping billionaire power players consolidate even more control, especially in times of economic uncertainty. And he's right to redirect the focus from Elon Musk to Peter Thiel. Elon might be the loud meme happy face of Silicon Valley, but Thiel has been quietly pulling levers behind the scenes, funding candidates like JD Vance, pushing deregulation, and shaping Trump's economic circle to favor the ultra-wealthy. Thiel isn't about tariffs to help the steel worker, he's about policies that crash systems so he and his friends can rebuild them in their own image. Profit first. As for Tomi's claims that tariffs will bring back factories and create gainful employment, the data just doesn't back that up. Trump's first round of tariffs between 2018 and 2020 led to higher consumer prices, retaliatory tariffs from other countries which crushed US farmers, and estimates that over 300,000 jobs were lost due to the trade war fallout. Sure, there were isolated wins in a few industries, but the broader working class didn't come out on top. Cameron gets what a lot of people are starting to realize. This isn't about populism. It's about weaponizing populist language to distract, while the real winners are the guys writing checks to PACs. Main Street America deserves actual policy solutions, not flashy trade wars designed to benefit the elite. Pause. Are you getting tired of getting half the story from biased news sources? One outlet says one thing and another says the complete opposite. How are you supposed to know what's actually true? That's where ground news comes in. It lets you compare how different media outlets, left, right, and center are covering the same story. So you can see the full picture instead of just the echo chamber. And here's the best part. Click the link in the description and get 40% off the Vantage tier, which gives you even deeper insights into media bias and political trends. Stay informed, think for yourself, and check out Ground News in the description down below.